If you drive for Uber on weekends, rent a room on Airbnb, or pick up the odd Airtasker job, listen carefully. That money you assumed was quiet, off-the-radar pocket cash? The Australian Taxation Office already has it. Uber, Airbnb and Airtasker now report your earnings straight to the ATO, and it's sitting in their system before you even open your tax return. There are 3 landmines hidden in side hustle income, and almost nobody's warned about them. The whole gig and sharing economy in Australia is worth $15.1 billion a year. Treasury, ABC News 2019, and the ATO is hunting it. Today we'll do 3 things. Check what the ATO already sees, fix your ABN and GST, and run the Airbnb numbers before you keep renting. Here's the figure that should make you sit up. $15.1 billion, Treasury paper, ABC News 2019, flows through platforms like Uber, Airbnb and Airtasker every year, and Treasury explicitly named this sector as a target for underreported income. But here's the part nobody tells you. The platforms don't just report what lands in your bank, they report your full gross earnings before fees. 3 moves. First, check what the ATO already knows. Second, fix your ABN and GST status. Third, run the Airbnb capital gains numbers. Each takes under 20 minutes and all of them are free. Move 1 of the system is something called the Taxable Payments Reporting System. Platforms providing taxi travel and short-term accommodation, Uber, Rideshare, Airbnb, have had to report sellers to the ATO since the 1st of July 2022. HLB Man Judd 2023. Task and delivery platforms like Airtasker followed from the 1st of July 2023. Every year they lodge an annual report by the 28th of August. And what they report is brutal in its detail. Not just your net deposits, your total gross payments, the GST on those payments, the fees and commissions withheld, and for accommodation, the property address and booking periods. RDL Accountants 2023. The ATO estimates it receives 20 to 30,000 account records a year, matching 10 to 20,000 of them to individual taxpayers. RDL Accountants 2023. The blank box on your return no longer hides anything. Now the second problem, and this one catches careful people too. Each platform follows different rules. Drive for Uber, and you must register for GST from your very first dollar of fares. ATO. Yahoo Finance 2024. Use Airtasker, and you only register once your combined turnover passes $75,000. Yahoo Finance 2024. And Airbnb income can quietly chip away at the capital gains exemption on your own home. Let's make that concrete. Say you earn $10,000 from these platforms in a year and leave it off your return. At a marginal rate of 34.5%, including the Medicare levy, that's about $3,450 in tax ATO rates. If the ATO calls it intentional disregard, the penalty can be 75% of the shortfall. ATO penalty guidelines, taking the total hit to around $6,000, more than 60% of the income itself. The myth that does the damage is this: they'll never notice a few small side gigs. It feels like harmless cash in hand. But the fact is the ATO already has it, reported directly by Uber, Airbnb and Airtasker, HLB Man Judd 2023. Declaring it before they ask is the difference between a normal tax bill and a penalty of up to 75%. So stack the 2 costs on $10,000 of undeclared income. The tax itself, about $3,450 ATO rates. The intentional disregard penalty on top, about $2,587 ATO penalty guidelines. Together, roughly $6,000, and that still ignores the general interest charge that keeps ticking the longer it goes unpaid. Let me introduce Jess. She's 34, a full-time marketing coordinator on $80,000 a year, taxed through PAYG. On the side, she drives Uber on weekends, rents her spare room on Airbnb, and picks up the occasional Airtasker job. About $30,000 a year extra. She's done it for 3 years and plans to keep going for another 10. She's never registered an ABN, never registered for GST, and never declared a cent of it. Here's what she found. Discovery 1. Jess logs in and finds roughly $27,000 a year of sharing economy income already sitting in the ATO's pre-fill HLB Man Judd RDL Accountants 2023. Uber and Airbnb had reported her full gross payments $18,000 from driving, $9,000 from her room, including fees withheld. She told herself they'd never notice a few side gigs. They saw 100% of it. Discovery 2 cuts deeper. As a ride-sourcing driver, Jess should have had an ABN and registered for GST from her very first fare. ATO, Yahoo Finance 2024. On $18,000 of Uber fares, the GST component is about $1,636 a year. Over 3 years, that's a shortfall of around $4,900. And she'd assumed the $75,000 threshold protected her. For rideshare, it never did. Discovery 3 is the one that stings. Jess's apartment cost $700,000 and could be worth $1 million in a decade. A $300,000 gain she assumed was completely tax-free. But renting 20% of the floor area on Airbnb makes part of that gain taxable, H&R block. For 3 years so far, that's about $7,000 of capital gains tax. And if she rents for the full 10 years, closer to $23,400 at sale, H&R block. Add it all up across her 10-year window and Jess is looking at roughly $199,000 of potential exposure. Author's estimate from Brief Figures. Income tax and penalty near $155,000, GST and penalty around $20,000, capital gains tax at sale about $23,000. That's before any general interest charge, all from not understanding that the ATO already has the data and that each platform plays by different rules. So could this be you? 3 signs. 1. You've earned from Uber, Airbnb or Airtasker and never declared it. 2. You don't have an ABN or GST registration, but you drive for fares. 3. You've never checked whether Airbnb is eating into your home's capital gains exemption. If any of those land, the next 3 moves are for you. 3 moves. Let's do them. Move 1. Check what the ATO already knows. Log into MyGov and link the ATO if you haven't. Open the pre-fill report for the latest year and look for entries marked ride sourcing, accommodation or sharing economy. Compare them line by line against your own records. And remember, the figure shown is your gross before the platform took its cut. This is general information, not personal advice. 3 quick steps. Sign into MyGov and link the ATO. Go to tax, then lodgements, then income tax, and open Prepare or the Pre-fill report. Then match every platform entry against your own records. What good looks like. Your declared gross income meets or exceeds what the ATO already has. Move 2. Fix your ABN and GST status. If you do any ride sourcing, Uber, Ola, Didi. You legally need an ABN and GST registration from your first dollar of fares. ATO, Yahoo Finance 2024. If you only use Airtasker and similar, you register once combined turnover passes $75,000. Apply through the Australian Business Register, add GST and ATO online, then lodge your BAS. 3 steps. Apply for an ABN listing your activity. For example, ride sourcing driver. In ATO online, go to Business, then Registration, and add GST with your start date. Then lodge BAS regularly, remit GST on your gross fares, and claim input tax credits on expenses. What good looks like. Rideshare registered, no matter the turnover. Everything else only at $75,000. Move 3. Run the Airbnb capital gains numbers before you keep renting. Renting part of your main residence can cost you the CGT exemption on that slice of your home, H&R block. Measure the percentage of floor area you rent and the period it's been rented against your total ownership. Feed those into the ATO's CGT guidance to size your future bill. Is far better to know now than at settlement. 3 steps. Measure the percentage of floor area you rent on Airbnb. Work out the rented period as a share of your total ownership period. Then multiply that combined share by your expected gain to estimate the capital gains tax. What good looks like. You know your future CGT exposure before you decide to keep renting. Why now? Because the net is already closed. Back in 2019, Treasury flagged the gig economy as a target for hidden income. ABC News 2019. From the 1st of July 2022, Uber, Rideshare and Airbnb began reporting to the ATO, HLB Man Judd 2023. And from the 1st of July 2023, Airtasker and food delivery platforms joined them. Every major platform now reports. The data is already in the system. The only question is whether yours matches. Once you've acted Verify 3 things, you should see your platform income matching the ATO's pre-filled data. Confirm your ABN, and if needed, your GST registration show as active in ATO online. And if you rent on Airbnb, make sure you've recorded your floor area and rental dates for when you eventually sell. Questions? Talk to a registered tax agent. Everything today comes from the ATO, Treasury, and tax firm guidance from HLB Man Judd, RDL Accountants, and H&R Block. All the links are below. So now you know the ATO already has your side hustle income and the 3 moves to get ahead of it. Next week, which side hustle deductions can legally cut that bill? If this saved you from a nasty surprise, subscribe. We read the fine print so you don't get stung. See you next week.